So I'm going to record this. I'm also going to give permission. Jasper, I'm giving you permission to record it as well to see. So you go ahead and record if you can to your computer. I'm going to record it to the cloud, and let's see if there is a difference in the quality of recording it to the cloud and recording it to the local computer. And so there is the YouTube now channel that has been set up called Gong Dharmakirti Circle. The Gong Dharmakirti Circle YouTube channel will have the recordings for our daily class and also some special things that has been done, such as the teachings on Panashavari. Yeah? So today we are going to start looking at more directly at some of the contents, yeah, of this tradition called Gongchik. So I want to briefly recap the reason why I'm going to be using why I'm going to use the name Gongchik instead of single intention. So Gongchik is Tibetan, so is Gongpa Chikpa is the shortening of Gongpa Chikpa. Gongpa is an honorific word that the non-honorific of Gongpa is Sem. And Sem is most easily translated as mind, but it also has connotation of like mind in the sense of like conceptual mind, in the sense of like, in this context, it's like planning, like ambitions, plans. Then Gong is the is the honorific of Sem, and is only used for Buddhists. Only Buddhists have Gongpa. So Buddha's intention. In other words, the intention, the plan, the purpose that is completely coming from having perfected wisdom and compassion. No more afflictive emotions associated with Buddha's intention, Buddha's plans, Buddha's projects, so to say, to benefit beings. So Buddha's mind, also Gongpa can also be Buddha's mind. So the word Gong has this meaning. And more importantly, as Khenchen Rinpoche, Khenchen Koncho Gyaltsen, one of the main people teaching Gongchik today, he said that this Chikpa, although the word is so simple, single, it has meanings more than just single as in one. It also has a meaning of whole, complete, unified, holistic, non-contradictory, and same. In fact, in colloquial use, when Tibetans say, "Oh, we are the same," they will say, "We are Chikpa. We are the same. We are one. We are Chikpa. We are the same." So it also means same, as in all the different aspects, all 84,000 teachings of the Buddha, they all have a single. They all have the same. They all have this holistic. They all have this completeness to them. So in a way, it's then we have to understand that every one aspect of the Buddha's teachings is connected to every other aspect, and in a way contains then all the other aspects. So for example, in other interpretations, they will say that, Hinayana is Hinayana, Hinayana teachings is Hinayana, Mahayana teachings is Mahayana, Vajrayana teachings is Vajrayana. So to clearly, right, differentiate between the three. In Jigten Sungkwan's understanding, he says, within the Hinayana, the other two yanas are present. Within the Mahayana, the other two yanas are present. Within the Vajrayana, the other two are present. They may not be explicit, but they are present for sure. Because the Buddha, doesn't differentiate things into this box, this box, this box. But based on circumstance or whoever he is teaching, at that time, he taught in a certain way. Only later, for clarity's sake, people have come along and grouped them into, oh, this belongs to here, this belongs to here, this belongs to here. So one of the very clear, an example that I think clearly distinguishes between Jigten Sungkwan's understanding, Kyopa Rinpoche's understanding of the relationship between all these different teachings, is even in the name of Gongchik. So keeping in mind, right, the nuances of what Gongchik means. In distinction, in contradistinction to the title of this text called Gongchik, not long after the publication of Gongchik by Sherab Jungne, a publication not in the sense of like, book publication, but he, started to circulate these Vajra statements and call it Gongchik. One of the greatest scholars of Tibetan Buddhism, one of the greatest scholars and masters of Tibetan Buddhism, Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita is, in fact, everyone says, Sakya Pandita is one of 3 instances of the emanation of Manjushri in Tibet. He's so learned, so well learned, everything, But Sakya Pandita, his approach, he wrote a text. Here he actually composed, as opposed to Jigten Sungkwan did not really compose things. Jigten Sungkwan's teachings are all very directly given to individuals who are practitioners, right? Sakya Pandita, when he writes, he's writing for an audience. He's addressing scholars. He's addressing the learned ones. So his very famous text is called Domsum Rabgye. Domsum Rabgye, translation of that title is clearly differentiating the 3 vows. And the 3 vows being the Hinayana vows, the Mahayana vows, and the Vajrayana vows. So the title of his famous work is called Clearly Distinguishing, Dividing, Discerning the 3 yanas or the 3 vows. So for him, it is about seeing clearly all the differences. Jigten Sungkwan, right? In contrast, the title of his core teaching is called Sameness of all the Buddha's intentions. Oneness of all the Buddha's intentions. So very kind of different, very different take on how these are related. Okay, now let's look at this next part. Page 25 in the introduction. Single essences, teachings, and intentions. The idea that all the Buddha's teachings have a single essence probably goes far back in Indian Buddhism. The related idea is that the Buddha never uttered a single word. And so in the in one of the key Mahayana sutras, the Buddha said, in the 49 years, so this is probably towards the end of his life, he said, in the 49 years that I have taught. Some traditions said that he taught for 45 years, meaning after achieving Buddha, he continued to be alive for 45 years. Some tradition says 49, so this one says 49. So he said, in the 49 years that I have taught, I have not uttered a single word. One of these enigmatic utterances, sayings of the Buddha. Here, the basic idea, which can already be found in the earlier strata of Buddhism, is that since conceptualization is at the root of the problem, the Buddha has no view, as that would only be a conceptualization. So no philosophical position, as in position in the sense of like saying this position, is absolutely true, no matter what, it's absolutely true. It says Buddhas don't have this because any kind of view is just conceptualization. And conceptualization is at the root of confusion. The relation to the idea of a single essence of the teachings is that conceptualization is multiplicity and proliferation, whereas non-conceptualization and no view is singularity in the sense of non-duality and non-proliferation. So this is, again, this is Sobish, right? Helping us to understand the Gongchik. I would want to say a little bit more about this. Again, it's not that Jigten Sungen is not interested in multiplicity and proliferation. So again, if we are stuck with the idea of Jigpa being one, as in singular, right? Here he says singularity. But I think he's careful too. He says in the sense of non-duality. You see there? Yeah. It says singularity, and then in parenthesis, in the sense of non-duality. So I think we have to be careful with using singularity. This kind of reminds me of these bumper stickers I see all around Asheville. All one. Yeah, all one. And then someone I know on Facebook, now he has started to sign off all his Facebook pronouncement with all one. And even when he is scolding other people, he has a habit of like scolding people on his Facebook page. He will end it with all one, So it's left rather, not because of him, in general, I think all one, can give this kind of like rigid, like there's only one. But it's not so much that it is only one. But it's saying that, of course, there's multiplicity. Of course, there is proliferation. But all the multiplicity and proliferation, they are non-contradictory. So also then here, Jigpa, which is translated as one or single, can I think also be understood as harmonious. in harmony. So think of a symphony, you know, all the different sounds in a symphony made from all the different instruments playing and the musicians playing all the different parts. When they all come together, you know, they become something greater. And it's not one sound, you know, it's not a single sound. It's a harmonious gathering of all sounds. So Jiten Sumgön's view, if you want to say a view, Jiten Sumgön's understanding, what he's teaching here in Gongchik, is that all this multiplicity, we recognize all the multiplicity. Right now we are confused by the multiplicity. So we do not see, in other words, the tendril. We cannot see tendril clearly because we're so confused and overwhelmed by the multiplicity. So then we want to draw these harsh and artificial lines between things. This is this, 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 this is not this, this is not that, this is this, this is that, you know, that kind of rigidity. Both of those are extremes. What Jiten Sumgön is presenting and teaching us is that the nature of reality is harmonious in the sense of all the teachings that the Buddha has given, they work together like all the different sounds in a symphony. And the 100 sounds made by 100 members of a symphony, plus, you know, if there is a choir to go along, and hundreds of sounds, singing all the different parts, they all come together. Every voice, in some ways you can hear, but it also doesn't stick out. It's all in harmony. It's all unified. It's all complete. And they're not competing. There was also an idea that the Buddha communicated the entire Dharma by the mere utterance of a single sound. This was maintained by the school of the Mahasanghikas. And one can find the idea expressed in the Bhadrachari Pranidhana Raja, the Dasa Bhumika Sutra, and the Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra. Some examples of Mahayana, important Mahayana sutras. Nevertheless, we do not know if this explicitly implies that the entire meaning of the teachings is contained in this utterance. However, it appears to be related to the idea of no utterance and non-conceptualization occurring in several sutras, such as the Lankavatara, Tathagata Guhya, and the Vrajachedika. Vrajachedika is the sutra known as Diamond Sutra, popularly known as Diamond Sutra. Chogi Drakpa's commentary provides an illustration from the Uttara Tantra Shastra. Uttara Tantra Shastra is the main text for Tibetan Buddhism. It's an Indian text said to have been taught by Maitreya, and it's about Buddha nature. So very important text, especially for Mahamudra tradition. Actually, in Jung Kagyu, it is said that the way of teaching Mahamudra is most closely anchored on the Uttara Tantra. So Choki Drakpa's commentary provides an illustration from the Uttara Tantra Shastra that states that just as rainwater acquires its, quote, many tastes by touching salty and other grounds, the teachings acquire many kinds of tastes by the different grounds of being's makeup. This is a wonderful example just like rainwater, when it falls from the sky, right? It doesn't have any particular taste unless it's acid rain, what human beings have done. But it comes down in a way, right, that is neutral. But as it touches the ground, right, if there is a particularly very salty patch of ground, then the water that flows out becomes salty. If there is a bitter patch of ground, it becomes bitter or sweet, all the different qualities that it picks up. So here, the idea is expressed that the words of the teachings were not differentiated at the time the Buddha spoke them. So the Buddha, when he spoke, when he gave the teachings that he gave, he gave it from the Buddha state. He didn't give it from a Hinayana state, Mahayana state, Vajrayana state, Sutra state, Tantra state, No. He just gave the Dharma. Although their non-differentiation is not explicitly characterized, we can assume that, in line with the Lankavatara and other sutras, they do not express views and concepts. However, when they reach the minds of individual beings with their different abilities, capacities, and faculties, they acquire differentiation. So in other words, we are the ones that need to differentiate things. The Samadhi Raja Sutra, in a passage quoted by Chokidrakpa, goes further by stating that all teachings, quote, have different wordings but the same meaning, unquote. Samadhi Raja Sutra is again another important sutra, especially for the Kagyu Mahamudra traditions. Moreover, the same sutra states, quote, I have taught all dharmas as a single meaning, unquote. Similarly, Atisha is quoted, pointing out that the essential meaning is by stating that all dharmas, quote, boil down to true reality, unquote. This thought may have its roots in the Paññāparamita Sutra, which is quoted in the introduction to Dorshema. Dorshema being one of the two earliest commentaries on Gongchik, as saying that if one knows the true reality of any phenomena, one understands all phenomena in brief and in detail. So it says here, if you truly, without error know the nature of just one thing, one matter, then you will know the nature, and not just nature. Here it says you will understand all phenomena, the true reality of all phenomena in brief and in detail. So in Kagyu, there is a saying, especially among Kagyu traditions, we say Chikshe Kundro. Chikshe. Chik here is again same as Gongchik. Chik here it means literally one. She is to know. So to know one. Knowing one thing. Kundro. Kun is all, dro is liberated. And knowing one thing, all things are liberated. More so when this expression is used in Mahamudra, it's used to talk about what is this one thing? Can you guess? What is this one thing? In Kagyu Mahamudra. What is this one thing? If you know this one thing, then everything is liberated. Then you are freed from everything.
The mind?
The mind. Yeah. The one thing to know. But here, it also is implying that then to know, say, about this prayer wheel, not how this prayer wheel is made and the meaning, all of that, but the true reality, the suchness of this prayer wheel, or the suchness of this basket, or the suchness of this book, and the suchness of our own mind, they're exactly the same. So that when we recognize, when we know the suchness of one thing, then we know the suchness of all things. But because in our case, our mind is the most available, the most intimate, the most basic of our own existence, therefore, in Mahamudra, the training is turned into investigating this mind. According to this idea, every phenomenon contains within it information on all other phenomena in an essential form, like a blueprint of the whole universe. This brings to mind the example in the Buddha Avatamsaka Sutra of the painting of a silk scroll the size and form of 1 billion-fold worlds, placed within each small atom. This is also the inspiration of a very well-received book that is known as the Dalai Lama published 10, 15 years ago. The whole universe in a single atom. That's about his reflection on science and scientific method and discovery and Buddhism. And so this is based on Avatamsaka Sutra. Avatamsaka in East Asia Buddhism is a very important text. It's called the Huayan Jing. So the Avatamsaka Sutra has inspired the development of traditions in China. So one of the traditions is called the Huayan school or the Huayan lineage, which basically means the Avatamsaka tradition or the Avatamsaka lineage. There they have one expression, well, two famous expression is 事事无碍 and 理事无碍. 无碍 is no obstruction. So no obstruction, I would say, is the same way of saying here, Chikpa. Same. As in Gongchik, Chikpa, as in harmonious. No obstruction. 无碍 in Chinese. No conflict. So then, 事 is phenomena. 理 is principle or essence. So 事事无碍 is there is no obstruction. There is no contradiction. There is no opposition between one phenomena and then the other phenomena. 理事无碍 is there is no obstruction, no contradiction between the principle or the essence and the phenomena and the appearance. So to me, these two statements are also very similar to what we're going to learn from Jiden Sungren's Gongchik. Seeing how on the level of appearance, all these different appearances, they're actually not in conflict. Ordinarily, we say, fire and water, they are in conflict, but they're not in conflict. They are interdependent. Then the other way is we think, oh, the essence is in conflict with the appearance. That there is a conflict between essence and appearance. But no, essence and appearance are never in conflict because they work on the phenomena. They work on they're not in conflict because in the fundamental nature, they arise due to this fundamental nature. And so they cannot be in conflict. The fundamental nature can be expressed and understood depending on context in various different ways. One is interdependent arising. So this particular understanding would say, for example, the workings of cause and effect, karma, it is not in conflict with emptiness. Of course, Nagarjuna tells us this, if emptiness is not the case, then form cannot exist. He says, interdependent arising is none other than emptiness. We also hear this from the Heart Sutra. However, I want to also point out, when these things get turned into like philosophical positions, especially as debated in the Tibetan like scholastic world, things kind of get very rigid. And people forget, this fundamental nature. According to the introduction to Dorshema, the realization of such essential information has salvific powers, has the power of liberating us, as expressed through the words of Milarepa. Knowing one thing, I am a master of all. Knowing all, I understand it as one. So this quote from Milarepa is really appropriate. Knowing one thing, and here, the mind, I am master of all. Knowing all, that means appearances, appearances that the mind perceives. When you know all the appearances, I understand it as one. So multiplicity and singularity, no obstruction, no contradiction, no opposition. They are harmonious. The exact nature of the essential salvific is related to liberative, which is salvation and liberation. The exact nature of the essential salvific information is identified in our commentaries and accompanying texts as non-arising, as birthlessness. From the perspective of the sutra teachings, and as Mahamudra from the perspective of the mantra teachings. Finally, on the same page, the introduction to Dorshema expresses the essence of the Buddha Dharma in terms of a single intention. Gongchik. Since there is nothing that is not ultimately included within uniform, non-arising, the meaning of Mahamudra and the ocean of true reality, all the teachings have a single intention. All the teachings have a Gongchik, a harmonious, a unified, a non-obstructing meaning, intention, goal, purpose. Yeah, so then Sobish goes on to unpack that it's not just the many as one, emphasizing the single essence or the fundamental nature, but also the one as many. This one as many perspective that is contained in many Mahayana scriptures in various forms can be used to illustrate why a single essence still needs to be expressed through many teachings, as in the case of the 150 Vajra statements of the single attention. the one also needs to have multiplicity to the point of 84,000. Questions, comments, discussion. You can unmute.
Hello. I wanted to ask, what is the position on the Kaju, Dharma Kaju regarding Buddha nature? Because I don't know. Is it empty of
Say
self
more.
or empty of other? Or
Say more.
other, is it, the same, empty of other or empty of itself philosophy, which?
In Jidesum Gun, there's no talk about empty of other, empty of self. This is a much later debate that arose among the scholastic community in Tibet.
So by this time, that was not discussed.
There's no discussion of Shentong, Rangtong. These are all much later scholastic debates.
Okay.
And in that sense, sort of like when people ask me, can you receive empowerment through the internet? And somebody asked that question. Then I remember one teacher saying, he said, "I don't know." And then people are like, "Oh, what do you mean?" He said, "The tantras don't talk about the internet, so I don't know."
That's true.
It's like the tantras don't talk about the internet. He's like, I don't know. So he said, then he said, but you can kind of reach your own conclusions. So during the time of Gongchik, this issue has not arisen in such a form. Whether the Buddha state, or whether the Buddha nature, or whether the ultimate state is empty of itself or empty of other, these are scholastic debates. So I think if you were to bring Jiten Sumgun, to the time when this debate has started, then he would say, first of all, how is it going to work? Either this position or that position, which works better at what state on the path you are? Both positions are conceptualizations. I would guess this would be the basic answer he would give. See that both positions are merely verbal and intellectual positions. And to the degree that you are going to employ either of these positions, see them as temporary positions to help you directly experience nature of mind and train in stabilizing nature of mind. Then let it go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would think, he has not much interest in this issue. Which has really animated the later scholastic traditions, this debate.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the quote that you told. It's the water of the rain is neutral, and assume
Yes.
it. Yeah, can you explain a little bit more? It's
Yeah,
referring
so
about the
this is
teachings
from
of,
the, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you were saying that it refers to the teachings of the Buddha, no?
Yes.
And the all the differences that the people catch, no, when they receive the teachings of the Buddha. This is correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more?
Okay, so maybe I can, maybe I cannot. I'm not sure. This is from Uttara Tantra, the main Buddha nature text for the Kagyu Mahamudra tradition. It says, I'll read again. It says, just as rainwater acquires its many tastes by touching salty and other grounds, the teachings acquire many kinds of tastes by the different grounds of being's makeup, meaning being's constitution, being's nature. So let me try to explain it this way. Now, we'll go back to Sakya Pandita, right? Sakya Pandita wrote Domsum Rabgye, which is clearly distinguishing, clearly differentiating between Hinayana vows, Mahayana vows, and Vajrayana vows. So his emphasis is to say there is a fundamental difference between the Hinayana way, the Mahayana way, and the Vajrayana way. According to that system, you begin here, then you progress here, then you progress here. Yeah. Hinayana, then Mahayana, then Vajrayana. Yeah. Jigten Sungön, in contrast, is going to say, these categories of Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, they are not categories established on the basis of Buddha changing his mind about how things are, but rather Buddha gave the Dharma that liberates, just like the rain that falls from the sky. Buddha gave the Dharma that liberates us from confusion. Depending on how strong or what form of confusion, yeah, then it turns into that particular type of medicine. So the differences arise from the capacity of the students. And more importantly, so in terms of the vows, more importantly, the way I understand what Jigten Sungön is saying is that the real change when the vow becomes from Hinayana vow to Mahayana vow to Vajrayana vow, it's not even so much that you're taking new vows, but your Hinayana vows, the vows that you took when your capacity is still Hinayana, as your capacity changes and matures greater and greater, then these vows evolve into Mahayana and evolves into Vajrayana. Rather than new vows are taken along the way. He talks about the nature, or the way these vows are working for you now is beginning to change based on your evolution. Almost like a magic medicine that you take, right? That depending on the level of illness that you have, it's going to treat that particular thing. Once that particular illness is treated, then there's a deeper level of disease, right? Then that medicine will begin to change that and match that and match that and match that until you're completely healed. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but
Good.
Yes.
I have also a question.
Okay.
The Gongchik in this book,
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of some of the mind training slogans.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering if you could comment if it's the same idea. One of the slogans is all teachings converge on a single point.
There is different, okay? Remember, the way I teach the Lojong text is I say there it's not, yes, of course it's related, but there, remember, that point falls under which point? All teachings converge on the single point.
Okay. Then there's two other sayings.
No. What point is that? What it
It's
falls
number
under
19.
which point? What?
Number 19.
No. I don't like that way of talking about Gongchik Lojong. Remember?
Okay.
I said you have to see. I think this is a mistake.
Okay.
In treating the Lojong statements as statement 1 to statement 59 or whatever it is that they say it is.
You prefer the 7 points.
Yes, within the
Okay.
7 points, where does this instruction turn up?
Fifth point.
Which is what?
Presentation of the measure of having trained the mind.
Exactly. So that is, how do you measure where you are? So for all the points under that point, under that 5th point, you almost have to put at the beginning, when all teachings converge on a single point, then you know you are doing this right.
Okay.
Yeah, so there, the force of that statement is, of course, you are right, based on the same understanding as Gongchik, but the context is different, is what I want to emphasize. Yes, it's based on the same point, that they converge on a single point. But in terms of where that line turns up in Lojong, I want to take this as an excuse, as an opportunity to point out to everyone that is to be used as a way to measure how well we are training the mind. Because often, right, we think, oh, this teaching is for that, that teaching is for that. Oh, I need to do, like, even superficially, I hope, you don't think that I'm saying, oh, right now, we do panashavari to quell disease, to control virus, and forget that, wait. What's the bigger point? The bigger point is liberation of suffering of all beings, bodhicitta. Then we will do panashavari in the right way. Then, we do smoke offering in the morning to cleanse, to purify. Then you think, oh, this is to do these things and to achieve these results. And then we forget. Actually, it's to cleanse self-grasping, self-fixation. And it's to help other beings purify suffering. If we do our sang offering based on that, then everything is converging on a single point.
Single point.
Yes.
And under the 7th point, it says carry out all intentions, all activities, all actions with one intention.
Yes.
And it also says to correct all wrongs with one intention.
Yes, and those are prescription. Those are both the samayas, the commitments that you have to keep, and the training that you have to adopt. Again, yes, the underlying logic of what is said in the Lojong text is the same as the one here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so absolutely you're correct, but I'm just using your question as an excuse to make my case for, we really need to rethink, re-examine how this Lojong 7-point text should be understood. I really feel rather strongly. So now I have my conceptualization, my scholastic mind, and my attachment and my suffering around this issue, that I think so many people have missed the internal structure of Lojong in 7 points. And this is in part caused by the, I feel, mistake of of these Lojong cards, you know, 1 to 59. So that then you just pick one out and say, oh, I contemplate this, oh, I contemplate that. No, they are grouped into 7 categories. And they have a particular function within where they are grouped under. And missing this completely, I think, takes out so much of the power of this text. Anyway, different point from Gongchik. I cannot resist. I'm thinking of starting another Zoom class on the Lojong in 7 points. Because right now is so important to really practice that.
Yes, please do.
and I have a mission, you know, to, in my very limited way, you know, correct this. I think, you know, I'm not saying that it's wrong, you know, what has been generally done with this text, but I think that the power of this text, you know, Lojong in 7 points, is often lost. The full power of it when we forget. It's not Lojong in 59 slogans. It's Lojong in 7 points, and how these 7 points are organized, and how the slogans within each of those points are supposed to function, I think is lost. Today, I think we should stop here. In part tonight, there's another class for 2 hours. Still, you know, feeling a little exhausted, but not so much. It's just changes in a spring, also part of the allergy. I don't have the strong like sneezing and itchy and all that, but I'm now remembering, you know, every spring the body is adjusting to, so it's a little, and also I think in a subtle way, you know, all the stuff that is going on, it's infiltrating me. So this is just to say to all of you, you know, you need to be also very careful, you know, even when you think it is not doing something to you, you know. And this body is so susceptible to all kinds of things. And in a way, as I said, you know, the body doesn't lie, you know. The body is not deceptive. The mind is deceptive. So the mind might say, oh, you're fine, you're okay, you're everything, you know. But then you're like, wait, the body doesn't feel right. But it's because, again, you know, suffering still comes in and is processed and is experienced through the mind. But the mind is such a subtle topic, so tricky, you know, that even if you feel like, oh, everything is fine, you know, oh, I have the Dharma, oh, I'm protecting myself, you know, but still, you know, the body tells you, nope. So one of the very mysterious Vajra statements that will come to it at some point, just to give you a taste, it says, you know, it is the body that wanders in samsara. And immediately that statement, you're like, wait. The Buddha is very clear. It is the mind that wanders in samsara. But that statement says, it is the body that wanders in samsara and not the mind. It's like, what? Was my first response, you know, many years ago when I heard this statement. Then with some explanation, I go, okay, I see, you know. But even at that point, I thought, this is just like, you know, a clever use of words and, you know, all of that. And okay, yeah, you know, that's the truth, you know. My response after it was explained to me how See, from this perspective, it is the body that wanders and not the mind. I'm like, that's just, you know, a play with words. Come on, you know, okay, you know. But then many years later, you know, from paying attention to my own practice, that statement, you know, I'm like, oh, wow, it's really profound. It's pointing to, you know, something that is so much deeper than just a play of words. So I shared it with one of my teachers, you know, this statement. I said, oh, Rinpoche, goodness, you know, that statement rings so true as I'm getting older and this body, you know. And Rinpoche said, yeah, you know, that's why, you know. Said, when you first hear the statement, you know, you think, oh, this cannot be right. Then when you apply some logic and some reasoning, then you think, oh, okay, this could be right. He said, but then at that point, you just think, oh, this is just some, you know, scholastic somersault, you know, scholastic gymnastics that you're doing, you're manipulating words. But then, as you bring it into your path, as you bring it into your practice, then you begin to see the statement. No, this is not some clever, cute, just to say things, just to be different. No. Truly, the body is that which wanders in samsara. So, have to respect the body. Also, I have to go pick up something for my goddaughter's music class. They live out in the country, but the music class is around in my neighborhood. There's some material that I have to pick up that then I have to do delivery service to them. No contact, social distancing, but I am part of the delivery service. So if you can join us tonight, join us for the Panashavari if you have interest, if you want to join. So the information for how to enter that class, the meeting ID is in the chat box there. Then otherwise, Lama Chopa Guru Puja will continue tomorrow morning and we'll continue to read these pages. Changchu Semchu Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyurche Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bil War Sho.
Gracias, hasta mañana.
Bye bye.
Saludos a
you,
todos.
Gracias. Hasta mañana.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.